Welcome to Yeshiva Daf, your sponsor, We're holding in Sanhedrin Daf Mem, starting the new Perek Hayu Boitkim, the fifth Perek of Masechet Sanhedrin. So with the first Amud, is basically almost the entire Amud is a Mishnah, and a lot of the parts of the Mishnah is things we learned already. The Gemara mentioned earlier. Let's go through it. Hayu Boitkim Oisom B'Sheva Chakiros. There's 7 questions which are called Chakiros, investigations, that they asked the AD. And these, as the Gemara Mishnah is going to explain in a moment, these 7 questions, they must answer and not contradict each other. Not contradict each other goes to everything, but they must answer, because if not, you don't have Hazama. What is Hazama? Hazama is you need to have the possibility for other AD to come. These AD weren't there when they said they were with us. So therefore, I need to have in the Hazama, the questions will specify exactly when and where they were. So let's see. Be'ez Shavua, what cycle of Shemitah was it? Be'ez Shana, what year of Shemitah? What year in general? Be'ez Chodesh, 1 month. Be'kam Chodesh, what day of the month? Be'ez Yom, what day of the week? Rashi explains, even though I know the day of the month, but sometimes people have a mistake. They mistake in the day of the month. Tell them the day of the week, they'll figure it out. And then Be'ez Shah, what place, what hour of the day? Be'ez Makam, what location? These are the 7 questions, and that's how you know Hazama, because I know exactly what day it is and what place it is. And you don't need all these questions. Enough to ask Be'ez Yoim, what day of the week? Be'ez Shah, what hour of the day? Be'ez Makam. 3 questions is enough. Says the Gemara, Makirim Aten Oisoi, he trace him. Do you know who he is? Do you recognize him? Did you give him a straw? If the testimony is that you worship with the Zorah, it's Smi Avad Ubame Avad. Which of the Zorah did he worship? And what avoided exactly did he do? That's Chakiros. The first 7 questions are Chakiros. These are the required questions to verify what day and what hour was it. B'dikois are other questions which are not as required, but as we'll see in a moment, when they're applicable. So anybody who adds b'dikois, it's great. Ma'asil Boduk ben Zakai be'uktzei teini. Once Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakai asked questions about uktzei teini. Uktzei teini means the what? The stem. The stem of the figs. Shaila, how wide was it and how narrow it was? Even though people usually don't realize that, he asked that. Ma'ben Chakir is the big, because what's the difference between Chakir and Mikro? Chakir is Achad Omein Yodea Eduso Betel. If Chakir was asked, what are they eating? What's the story over here? And he says, I don't know. It's over. Because you can't do Hazam. So Rashi says, when every time it says Edus Betelo means everybody goes home and end of the story. B'dikois. If it's b'dikois, just other questions. For example, what was the size of the stem of the fig? The guy says, I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't realize. No problem. But in both cases, if the eidim contradict each other, which means one aid says it was wide, the other aid says it was narrow, so they have a contradiction, then the edus is cancelled. One says it was the 2nd day of the month, the other one says it was the 3rd day of the month. Was it base Shvat or Gimel Shvat? Edus ukeyenes. Why? One knows that month, they added a day to the previous month, and the last month was 30 days. And he made it was Chodesh, was 1 day later. And that's why that day was base. The other one thinks it was a regular month. It was a 29-day month. So he made it that Rosh Chodesh was 1 day early. This is Gimel. It doesn't mean they're contradicting each other. But if there's a 2-day difference, one says the 3rd day of the month, one says the 5th day of the month, and do some potato. It's bottle. Why? Because 2 days is already not a mistake if people do. One says it's the 2 hours of the day, and the other one says it was the 3 hours of the day. They do so okay in this. They do so okay. Why? Because people get mixed up between the second and third hour. The Gemara, speaking about the Gemara by us, we'll see it soon. How much do people make mistakes? So you could say the people make mistakes in a few minutes. It could be used the end of the second hour. And one thought was the end of the second hour, and one thought was the beginning of the third hour. You know, his watch is a little bit delayed. But if someone says the third hour, so it says fifth hour, in this 2 hour difference, and do some then it's a contradiction. It's still okay, 3 to 5, we'll see in the Gemara. But if one says the 5th hour of the day, and one says the 7th hour of the day, which the 5th hour, what is it? It's the morning. The 7th hour is the afternoon. And do so b'teil. Then it's batal. Why? People should recognize that. In the 5th, the sun is towards the east, and the west is towards the west, and the afternoon is towards the west. Then they bring in the second 8, and they check it. If you see they're both saying the same thing, as we learned earlier, what is it? We start with saying, anybody who knows the schus should say something. And Rashi, as we said before, they tell the nidoin, don't be afraid. If you didn't do anything wrong, you'll be okay. One of the Eidim says, I have what to say. One of the Talmidim says, I can say a choivo, we don't listen to them. Why? They should not speak about this case. And the Yonim, and by the Talmidim, we just allow them to speak for schus, not for choivo, because they're not one of the Yonim. To bring the Talmud, they add him to the basing. Doesn't go down the entire day. If what he says makes sense, there's a real to it. Even in the nidoin, it says, I have a schus for myself. Well, without change mamish b'dvar. Well, no, you can't just, any person says, I have to say a schus. It has to be something real. They found the schus, they let him go. Then they wait for the next day. As we saw earlier, you wait for the next day to finish the din. Then the Beis Din split 2 pairs. Every 2 dayanim go together. They don't eat a lot. They don't drink wine. They took the pairs, the chavusas, they go back and forth. Is there a makom schus? Is there isn't? Should we save him? Should we not save him? Etc. The next day got the base. So what does Zaka says? Here's my schus. He stays where he is. And then Mechav says, that's what I hold chayv. One says chayv can change his mind to say schus. Unless it was the Gemara din. Because doing the Masu Maton, doing the debate, he can't change his mind to say a chayv. They're not so sure what they said, where they're holding. The 2 Seifrim, the right, they remind everybody. Now in the second debate, if they find a schus, but true, let them go. Then they go and they count the dayanim to see if there's enough to kill. 12 say Zakai, 11 says Chayov. Zakai, end the story. You have 1 additional one, he's Zakai. Maybe it's 12 that says Chayov, 11 says Zakai, it's only 1 extra. 11 and 11. Once I don't know. Even 22 says Zakai or Chayav. You can't do a din that way. You need to have 23 to have an opinion. So what do? You see for dayanim. Then you have to add more dayanim. How many do you have? You had 2. You had starting at 2 to the 22. And then they do a count again. If it's 2 extra for chayva, you kill him. If it's not, you don't. Yeah, another two, until you get to 70. Actually, at 71, sorry. You get to that. And now you count. 36 say Zakai. 35 say Chayat. Zakai. That's good enough. 36 says Chayot, 35 says Zakai. You have a Roiv of Chayot, but not enough. Because you have to have a Roiv at least of 2. They start debating again. Until one changes his mind. The Gemishta says Allah Tzchus. The Choiva says Zakai, but it can be also the opposite. One of the Zakais says Choiva. That's a very long Mishnah going through the whole process of how Bini Nefashos works. So if you want me know immediately, how do we know you have to do 7 chakiras? Rashi explains that the Rashto v'chakarto means investigate well. So the word heitiv is unnecessary for them. But shoalto means question. It can be any question. When it says shoalto heitev, that's a chakira. So the Rashto v'chakarto, shoalto heitev, that's 3. Voimer, there's another pasuk. V'ugun lecho v'shomato v'durashto heitev, that's another 2. And sorry, that's another, yeah. That's another 3, because it says the word heitev. So shomato durashto heitev. If you look at Rashi says, last Rashi no, I maybe missaid it, so let's see the Rashi inside. That's the first pasuk speaks by Yeri Dachas. That's 22. Why? The Durash below Eitim Ashur Dusha value. Durash already is good. So right to Durash Eitim too. Who are you saying? Tim Durash Eitim Eitim. In the Chikahed. Zachar goes to Durash Eitim as Eitim Achodim as Eitim Rishon or Rishon Chakiris. So I have 3. And I have another 2. Sorry, I said it wrong. Shomat. Shomat is not a Drisha. Durash to Chakar to Shalat Eitim is 3. Shomat to Durash to Eitim is another 2. The Shua Eitim Eitim is another 2. That's 7. Says the Gemara Daf Mem Beis Veimo Chado Kediksivo. Remember, the Pesukim are talking to different inyan. The first pasuk speaks about Yeri Dachas. The second one about the Zorah, and the third one about Eitim Zayim. Maybe you have to ask 3 questions by Yeri Dachas, 2 questions by Avid Zorah, and 2 questions by Eitim Zayim. How do you know that all 7 apply to all? Says the Gemara. Part of the question, so just write it together. They're all written next to each other. They learn from each other. They learn from each other. It's as if it's written in one place. How can you learn from each other? Not similar. It's not similar. The other 2, you don't touch their money. You burn not only the people, you also kill all their property. Avidazor you do with a sword. Every day do with a sword. Meaning, look at Rashi. Iridachas b'saif. Veidu is sometimes b'saif. Meaning, as Rashi says in the second shot, the Torah agrees with that. Eidim Zoyim could be b'saif if they spoke about saif. So they are b'saif. And the other ones is not. So the Aridazara, which is a more chomedic thing, maybe I don't have to check so much because it doesn't go beside, it's not with the sword. Whereas it's different. The other 2, you need to warn them in order to punish. You don't have to have a straw. Says it's Exer Shava, Eitiv Etiv. Exer Shava Mufli has to be Exer Shava Mufli. We know that every time we want to do Exer Shava, it has to be an extra word. Because there's no extra word, you can ask questions. Then you can ask questions. More in line, you're right. Because in Dosh Chok, where it says Eitiv, Shvami no, left for you. Eitiv is extra. Eitiv is extra only in one place. The next 2 are the Zorro. And Eidim Zayim, because it says Eitiv. So the Eitiv is extra. Eliani Dakas Mayavle Michtav Active Kul. There it says the Rashto, the Chakarto, the Shal the Eitiv. There you have to say Eitiv. Osamai after Mufne. There it's also Mufne. It's also extra. And how the Michtav the Roish Tidroish Chakor Tichkor. Right, it says the Rashto Chakarto. The Shani Korbi Diburi Eitiv Shram no Lefri. So the Shinoy Lashon tells me to use the word Eitiv. So the one in the middle what? Also Nichnokim. Now we know it's 4 meters based. You have killing with a sword, choking, burning, stoning. Meaning, we learned about skilo that is by Avodah Zarah. And we learned about saif, that it is Beidim Zoymim or Yarin Dachas. So, Kol Sheken we have Nichnokim from Miskolim. Also Nisrafim, also the ones who get burned, you look at the chaymer from Miskolim, you have to check well. So that's going to go to Rabbanon that says, we'll see later, that skila is the more severe punishment. Below that comes Sreifos. If you say skila needs to be checked well, Sreifa kol shekin. Elav Shimon Dama Sreifa Chamura, but according to Shimon the that Sreifa is the most chomedik. So you found by skila to do Drisha Chakira, but who said Sreifa has to do Drisha Chakira? Maya Kilabima. Elav Yudo, Vine Emes, Nochoin, Relative Drosh. Emes Nochoin, Chadasa. Meaning we have an additional, that's Emes, and Nochoin is an extra. It says Emes Nochoin is extra too, and it says twice. Emes Nochoin and Emes Nochoin. So we add Emes Nochoin, the 2 Emes Nochoin to the list. We had 7 questions, add 4 more, 7 plus 4 is 11. Hachadasa, that's 11. Sheva, the Sheva Chakiros have 7 gears. Tlat, Dal, Tlas, the Xer Shava, the extra 4, 3 you use for Xer Shava. Each one is an extra word for Xer Shava. Pashalucha, they have extra 1. They have Shimon last 3 Nisrafim. According to Shimon, I have 1 more word to teach me Nisrafim, which is not included in the 3 that we have in Psukim. The Rabbanon, Milso, the Hasik of the Chaymer, Terech, V'Kosalakol. You are according to Rabbanon, I don't have to write Nisrafim. Because of the Chaymer from Miskalim. But because sometimes the Torah writes something like Kalubik al-Chaymer, the Torah writes it clearly. Says the Gemara, Ravo. So Ravo says, he doesn't like this answer. Maybe instead of having 7 questions, and you add the extra word to tell you Yisrafim, maybe Yisrafim you don't ask questions, and the extra word to tell me you don't have 7 questions, you have 8 questions. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? What do you have 8 questions? Why not? Remember, what's the questions? What cycle of Shmita? What year? What month? What day of the month? What day of the week? What hour? Can I add 1 more? 1 minute of the hour. We ask another question, 1 minute. This is according to what we learned in Masechet Pesachim that we mentioned briefly before. That according to Rameir, the way Rabbi explained Rameir, people don't make a mistake at all. When a person says it was 7:05, they don't make mistakes. They know it's 7:05. Well, a little bit shafir. I don't ask you, there's no need to come and ask me. In other words, I could ask what minute of the hour. Meaning, it's a good question. Because if the person says it was at 7:10, and it was actually 7:20, it's not the same hour, not the same time. But Rabbi could explain that people do get confused within half an hour. He said 7:10, he meant 7:40. Well, it's even more than half an hour. Michael and Mara, that you don't have a question how much of the hour. It could be people get mixed up within half an hour within the same hour. So if I said 7:05 and he found that at 7:55, it's still okay. According to Rav. So the 8th question will be what you said which cycle of Shmito, but the question is what Yovel it is. Which Yovel we're talking about? Which 50-year cycle we're talking about? So sorry, before we get to that, which year, which cycle of Shemitah? Hainu Eze Shavua, that's the question of which Eze Shavua. And last 3 days, the Yovel, which Yovel? In other words, people you don't have a problem with 50 years. 50 years is already too extensive. I tell you, it was in the third year of Shmita. It means this cycle of year. So you don't have to ask 7 questions, only 3 questions. Someone comes and says, oh, he killed him yesterday. We will start asking, what cycle of Shmita? What year? What month? What do you mean? I said it was yesterday. What happens if someone says, oh, I just saw him killing? You tell him what hour, what place? You do. Even though you don't really ask. You don't need to ask. You know the answer. You ask the question. Meaning, like Yeshiva Daf says, we try just to bother that trichom. Coming and me bothering them. Also, you ask the questions more. It says it's different. To say it happened yesterday, that's very common. Someone goes to base. Say, yesterday happened this. I don't have to start asking. Sometimes you do, but that's not part of the required questions. What cycle of Shmita, what year, what month, because I know it. But what hour and what location, there are many times you don't go to base within this first minute. So that's why they established that 3 questions is a minimum required. Says the Gemara, Makir Matem Oisu. Do you know? Do you know who it is? Do you know if it's a goy or a Jew who he killed? He traced him, boy. Did you give him Hasra? And keep all of Hasra. Did he accept Hasra? He did Hasra the Misra. That's what Misra is that he said that I'm willing to die. I'm accepting myself to die if I do this thing wrong. As we'll see soon. Did it happen that he killed we talk in the Dibur of the Asra? However, there was the Zara, because of the Zara. And to me, all that. Who did he worship? The Pehor of it or the Merkuli Sorat? Two different names of the Zara. Who did he worship? Uvameh of it. Which avoid did he do? Bezibuach, it's putting the meat on the fire. Bekitur, spices. Benisuch, oil. Bishtachavo, he bowed down. So you have to know exactly what he did, and that's all part of the questions. And we'll stop over here. Based on Hashem, from here we can start the next daf later tonight. Regarding, talking about the dinim al hasro. Have a wonderful day.